Hey there viewers, my name's Torinski and welcome back to another DCSS Sunday. Today we're of course jumping back into the usual, trying to get a win with every species in the game. Where we last left off, we had managed to finish off our Deep Dwarf, surprising mostly myself with getting through that in one try there. And we moved on to Vine Stalker after unfortunately losing Katniss Evergreen pretty early on. We did manage to do a little bit better with Amy Winehouse, so hopefully we can keep the luck going here, keep the run chugging, and make it out in one piece. But who's to say? So let's pop into it here. We had temporarily been worshipping the Shining One. We were hoping for Fedhas. That was the suggestion from the audience that we were trying to get done in this run, but unfortunately we weren't really able to find an altar to them quite yet, so hopefully one shows up and we can transfer over from the Shining One without too much issue. So at the very least we have that going for us. Otherwise, we finished going through the majority of lair here. Shoals and spiders are S branches, and the world is just our oyster. Of course, there's the Indiana Jones vault here as well that I'm very sorely tempted to open up, but I feel like these two spiders are not exactly the full extent of what we may have to face in there, so we'll leave it alone for now. We'll probably head out back to the dungeon, maybe even start our orc exploration, and just see how it goes. I guess we also have some uniques that we left behind in the early days here, so again, many options on the table here. Do I have any noob suggestions for species for monk? You love getting monk, then Rue to instantly get sacrifice. Definitely works out pretty nicely. One that I really enjoy going with a monk is definitely hill orcs, especially if you're going for a hill orc of BO, going full Messiah strats, because it does allow you to start recruiting orcs a heck of a lot sooner, as well as getting that smite online, because the smite is so crucial to being able to just instant delete anything that's given you too much trouble there. So that's my big one for sure. I'm trying to think of where else I'd potentially use it. Usually on most other species, it's more of just a little additive bonus. I mean, if I'm really trying to force a specific god, that's when I might go for that, try and get those early pips. But in general, I feel like that's the only kind of scenario where I usually find myself going with monk. So very much depends on the style of play that you want to engage in rather than the species itself, besides Hill Arc. I think Hill Arc is a pretty safe bet because if you're going with BO, it's going to be pretty indicative of your entire journey there. How's it hanging? It's going fantastic, Jazzy. Thanks for asking. How are you doing? I hope everybody is having a fantastic weekend. Unfortunately, it's coming to an end here. I know it was a bit rough. A rude awakening for me today because time just flew by and I was hoping to get a heck of a lot more done this evening, but hey, here we are, so let's enjoy it while we're going, shall we? Choo-choo for Hill Orc Monk. Would I go heavy armor or light armor? I usually go for just heavy armor right off the bat, pretty much play them like your standard fighter build and go from there. I mean, that's not to say you can't delve into magic a little bit more. They have decent aptitudes, especially in fire magic, so it's not out of the question for sure, but usually I just slap on the heaviest armor I can, try and chunk my way through. Hey, Catra as well. And also, do I plan on playing Trunk? Because there's some big changes. I usually, especially for this series, just find myself playing on the stable release, so when Trunk makes its way down is when I'll start to play it. I mean, if I happen to find some extra time to get on at some point here, maybe do a special run of some kind, then I'd be more tempted to go to the Trunk side, but for the time being in this series, usually just do whatever is stable, try and help out for, you know, the majority of players that are going on. Even though I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if the majority plays on stable or in Trunk. That's a bit of an interesting question. But at the very least, it's things that are not as subject to change, so I find it a nice little sample size as to what somebody could expect coming into the game. You're good, Jazzy. Slammed with finals and projects, but you can't complain. That sounds about right to me. I'm definitely going for, or having quite the industrial week. Couple of weeks, really. Unfortunately, it's meant that I've cut a few of my Wednesday streams short. Today, we'll see how late we can keep going, because I do also have a couple of things I need to finish up before the weekend ends here, but for the time being, I can just ignore that, let it slip away, and see how the rest of the run goes here. Going for great player, understood. Exactly. So, without further ado, I guess we should actually start doing some stuff, shall we? Let us start out. I'm between just going back out to regular dungeon and Orcish Mines. I don't think there's too much that we know of waiting for us in the dungeon, so we should have a fairly, at least straightforward path through the rest of that. But let's start on Orc, shall we? At least see if that's even an option. Maybe it's gated by a tough unique and we'll have to just run away anyway. And that will make my decision-making process a heck of a lot easier. As always, whenever I can kind of shoot decision-making, outsource it to a different place, and I don't have to do any of that, that's a fantastic day. So let's do this, shall we? And there we go. Immediately run into a unique. I was kind of thinking of Irug in my head as I mentioned it. Can probably fight you at the moment. I don't want to take too many javelin hits for sure. But that's fairly preventable, especially with our little staircase here. In fact, if I just head up, will you come to me, Irug? Will you make things easy? At the very least, we can kind of get body blocks in with the other orcs that are hanging around, and that at the very least helps out with the entire process. And there we go. I'm kind of torn as to whether we should stick with the electrical short sword that we've been using or swap over back to our speed, because I think we briefly mentioned it last week, but with Vine Stalker, the faster you get your attacks in, the more magic restoration you're doing, which means, in a way, more health. It's almost like a pseudo-vampiric kind of attack, thanks to our innate spirit guardian. So it's definitely not a bad idea to go with the speed. Of course, early game electric brand on a decently fast weapon is also pretty solid, so again, it's that tough decision making that I try my best to avoid. I also forgot to go in here right at the start of the stream, but something that baffles me as I look back on my mindset last week, I don't really know what I was doing here. You have to do some homework, so I'll catch you later. Perfect. Sounds good, Ninja. Hope your homework goes well. And yeah, I'll definitely see you around. Thank you so much for dropping on by to say hi. I always appreciate it. But hope the rest of your weekend goes well, and I'll see you later. But the issue at hand here with the skills is, and you may be able to notice this yourself, I'm training both bows and shields simultaneously, which is a little counterintuitive, seeing as how I can't exactly use both of those at the same time. So, whoops. I guess never trust past me. That guy's an idiot. Going for the one-handed bow build? Exactly, yeah. The much coveted, some say non-existent, one-handed bow build. But I believe that if we search long and hard enough here in the dungeon, I mean, anything's possible, right? Especially if you put your mind to it. So, I'm not sure how exactly we want to reconcile this. I mean, one thing that I think might have played a bit of a role is the idea that we're also crossing our fingers trying to manifest Gyre and Gimbal into the game, because that will mean no shield. So shields are just to survive long enough to get Gyre and Gimbal, and then we'll just swap between those and the bow. It's the perfect play, especially if we do end up at some point here finding a Fed House altar, which is hopefully in the cards for us. But for the time being here, let's cap bows off at 8, and as soon as it hits that, we'll just hold off for the time being, because we have plenty of time before that will at all become relevant, most likely. So instead of bows, I was a little bit torn as I was doing my review this morning, whether I want to just train some fighting, get a little bit more max health under the belt, or evocations is always pretty solid. We only have a few wands at the moment, but it also contributes to our maximum mana, so that's the nice little trade-off there, seeing as how, again, that's just health, baby. So probably end up going with one of those. In fact, maybe we'll start with Evo and just bring it up to, whoopsie daisies, let's try that again. Bring it up to 9 here and see how that goes. Sagu says, surely I'll get Gyre and Gimbal to drop on this run? Of course. I mean, it's basically guaranteed at this point. Not a doubt in my mind. Just have to find it. That's the real issue at hand. But for now, let's not worry too much about it, and just try and survive for the moment, shall we? Usually a pretty good goal in games like this. Controversial opinion. But we do our best to not die in a terribly embarrassing way. Maybe that's just me. I'm not like other boys. Okie dokie. I was debating whether we even want to start with our Orc 2 here. I mean, that fight against the Sorcerer didn't go too poorly, but we definitely don't exactly have the willpower. In fact, if we pop in here and check our resistances across the board, Fire and Cold, not really there. Poison shouldn't matter too much unless we have some really annoying branded weapons in the hands of our enemies. But willpower, and I guess mostly resist fire for the Sorcerers. And of course the High Priests are their own flavor of issue. Hello, friends. Suddenly that is a lot of attention coming our way. Let's double check what we're worried about here. Paralyzed is 27%. Please no. If you could be so kind as to just not do so, that would be fantastic. Alternatively, we can wait just a wee bit here. Take just one of these sorcerers upstairs. Perfect. Just make sure we're playing nice and safe. Unfortunately, this buddy's not gonna leave their summon. But of course, always a good idea to abuse the stairs mechanics. Make sure you separate those summons from their casters. It makes your life a heck of a lot easier. Do I go to Orcish Mines before or after Lair? Mostly depends on the run. I would say, as a general rule of thumb, I find myself going to it after. Usually like delving my way into Lair, at least seeing how it goes. If we're seeing a lot of Hydras or we don't have a way to deal with the heavy amounts of poison, then I'll usually come this way, see if we can't find some nice shops. In general, I find a lot of people like to complete the dungeon as well before doing the rest of Orc. And I don't really see too much problem with that, besides maybe the lower floors, 14, 15, things can start to get a little bit sketchy. But of course, you always got to be agile on your feet, make sure that you're not sticking around too long anywhere that might be an issue. You know what? Nope, we're just going to leave. I do not want too many mutations from a Nekoxek right now. And instead, we can just deal with you on your own. Fantastic. That's much nicer. But no, I usually like going to Orc a little bit later. Generally, by this stage in the game, we're in a really nice spot. There's that fire we were talking about. In fact, let's probably switch over to protection from. That's probably a good idea here. Perfect. And a High Priest coming around the corner. Now that, I don't think we'll stick around to find out how that encounter would play out. Instead, we could just bring you upstairs, my friend. Perfect. And try our best to split up these two. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your cooperation, my Orc friends. Makes my life a heck of a lot easier. Oh, geez. That Ice Devil hurting a wee bit, for sure. As we continue to just chop up the enemies here, both literally and figuratively, since we want to separate them from each other as much as possible, as well as from their own limbs, if we can. Not going too badly at the moment here. Some bad hits from a glaive definitely takes some chunks out. We're starting to see our lack of defenses in full display there. Oh geez. And same here. Another great example. We'll probably just play this one a little bit safer. Make sure to finish this buddy off. You could just chill for the moment, my sorcerer friend. I'm going to make sure not to walk too fast. You can see how nice the regeneration we have available to us is, though. So we heal up most of the way before even making it to the stairwell. Can't exactly complain about that, and we're slowly but surely making our way through. And another Nekoxek. But this time, don't get any mutations heading our way, so it all works out. Absolutely fantastic. Let's definitely stay out of view of that alarm trap, seeing as how we don't exactly know how many new friends are going to be making their way at us here. There we go. Much better fight with that Orc Knight. Went a bit rough that first time around, to say the least. I feel like we're getting fairly lucky here. If all of these buddies had engaged on us at once, we'd be in a heck of a lot of trouble, a heaping load of it. But fortunately, we're able to avoid a lot of those issues just by making sure that we're taking everyone on a little bit of a little journey here. Is this another protection branded flail? It is. I was wondering why that fight was taking a little bit longer than initially expected. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that the last Orc Knight that had that wasn't in the same boat. Ooh, but a weapon store? I would love me a quick blade. Don't get me wrong. Double High Priest? No thank you. We're gonna just walk away. Fortunately, when they spend turns to smite you, it does cause them to lose a lot of ground. So you just need enough health to kind of muscle your way past those first few smites, and then you're usually in a half-decent spot. Wait out some time so that summon is taken away from our good friend. And very similar situation here. Another 10-15 turns or so. Oops, that wasn't quite long enough, as we still see our Hellwing friend. Let's see. Let's maybe just use some boomerangs to soften this son of a gun up. In fact, throwing is another thing that we could potentially throw some skill points into early on. It is usually pretty nice. I mean, even if we do end up going with Gyron Gimbal and a nice bow, throwing is always really good for javelins. I mean, unless you get lucky enough to find the storm bow with the penetration effect, then usually those javelins will always have a role to play. Help out in one way or another. So at least something to think about, and we'll probably end up transitioning at some point here. Jeez Louise, you hit like a truck, my friend, but fortunately, once again, just enough health to get out of danger range. Then we can maybe try trading some hits, see how it goes. The answer is not great, so immediately retreat. I mean, at the very least, we do actually out-heal this son of a gun, so if we play our cards right, we could potentially just cheese our way through this entire encounter. Though maybe I want to bring out some of the big guns here. Let's start with a Wand of Acid. Not great. Missing an 82% chance is never exactly what you want to see. There we go. Fantastic. Is that just a regular old halberd? +1. It's something, but definitely expected worse, just seeing how hard we are getting slammed. +8 chainmail. Now that's quite nice. We'd lose our resistance to electricity that we currently have going right now, but we'd gain a heck of a lot of AC in exchange, so that's probably worth the trade there. Still 4 curing potions. We'll mark mutation though, as a good goal for the future. And ooh, mutation is actually un-ID'd, so let's just buy one of those. It's not too expensive, and it will give us some information as to what we have going. We'll ignore the bookshop for now. And unfortunately, no quick blades, no Gyron Gimbal especially. But that's to be expected. Wasn't getting my hopes too far up there. And okie dokie. So if we want to change away from mail here, we will have to deal with this drain effect for taking it off. But other than needing to be a little bit more careful of electricity, it would be quite nice. In fact, if we pop in here and just go to examine, what's our increase? AC would increase by 12, so that is an appreciable boon, almost doubling. Would be nice to have a bit more defensive capability for sure. We probably don't even really have any armor training. Okay, we have a wee bit, 6.5. It's something for sure. At the very least, let's just buy this. We don't have a lot more in these shops to call out to me at the moment, or that is calling out to me, I should say. So that seems fantastic. And is there anything else? We can even check to see if there's any trash that we can kind of clear out. We probably don't need just regular poison darts anymore. Won't really be making use of those. almost ready to switch off of our buckler to the +2 kite shields. That'll free up another slot, which is always nice. 3-brand weapon, just burning a hole in our pocket while we wait for a slightly better weapon to come up. In fact, I can do a double check here, make sure I'm not missing anything important. Always good to do the Control F period search, check the floor real quick. Didn't expect a quick blade, but you never know. Worth a shot. And with that, we'll probably head our way back to ye old regular dungeon here and get to exploring. The last question at hand is, do I want to switch? I think the answer is yes. I think I do. So yes, we will take the heavy drain here, going down to 59 health, so definitely an appreciable hit, to say the least. But hopefully, we're in a decent spot here to just gain some quick experience as we make our way through the regular dungeon, offset that drain. I mean, it's a good time to get it, just because we're not quite in S-Branch territory yet. So we have a good chance here to get rid of it before we have to go and fight against the tough targets. We'll probably end up going to shoals first, seeing as how we're fairly well suited for it with our boots of flying. But that's not to say that javelineers aren't going to be a little bit of an issue as we make our way through that spot. So who's to say? Maybe we'll just get lucky. Wouldn't that be nice? An easy shoals? Sounds fantastic to me. Rolls our potions of Berserk Rage could come in handy. Though we need to be a little bit careful when we activate stuff like that, though. That's fairly standard fare by this point. Always got to be a little bit cautious as to when you let the Berserk loose. Let out the inner animal. +6 Ring of Dex, I think we'll just ignore for now. Might be nice to get a little bit of extra evasion, of course, but not a huge deal. Okay, we get a gauntlet. So I'm going to start by just exploring regularly, but I'm hoping that we get a nearby message. Otherwise, we'll probably end up switching out. I don't know where did our wizard friend go? Did we kill the invisible wizard? We hear the beating of a drum nearby, so that's a good sign. Summon Cactus Giant. Game's trying to tell us to abandon and worship the one true plant god. We're trying our best. Please, game, just one Fed House altar is all I ask of you. Pretty please, if you could be so kind. Should be able to fight some yaks without too much trouble. Even Torinski looking good so far. I hope it continues to go that way. I mean, picking up this nice chainmail was a huge little boost to our survivability here, so I'm hoping we can take that and just run with it. But we'll see how it goes. Still holding out for Fedas. Okay, still getting the nearby message. How nearby are you, friend? Maybe it is in this little area. It does seem fitting, but usually I find that the gauntlets are fairly random in their placement. Oh gosh. We got the nearby message and we're just struggling hard to find it. Okay, it's distant up there, so maybe it is back down this way a wee bit. Let's try peeking around this corner. There she is. Perfect. Should be able to fight you, and let's head in and see what we have in store. I really should have emptied my inventory a little bit before popping in here, but I mean, we have some things that I'd probably be willing to part with if push came to shove, so let's just see what we have available for us. Immediately see a wizard, which is an interesting preposition for sure. Ooh, this is one of those very cool setups where we get to choose a little bit how far we're willing to push. That is just to say that this porter, I think, will take us into the next room, while this one will bring us right to the Minotaur. So that's pretty nice. You honestly just read MM for which there. But let's see. We do have to be concerned about banishment. We can even take a quick peek here. 24% chance. Banishment at level 14 on this character is going to be a bit of a rough shot. I mean, Vine Stalkers have a bit of an easier time compared to other species with that nice high regeneration. Able to sustain through multiple encounters down in the deep depths there. Though I guess depths is a bit of a loaded term in this case. You know how that's a separate branch of the dungeon, but you of course know what I mean. So we have protection from fire for fireball. And I think we are just going to go for it. And see how it goes. We could even do a quick check. What do you get changed into? Shining Eye, Eye of Devastation, or Boulder Beetle? Those are not great, if you ask me, friend. They have 40 health. We deal 3d13, so a couple of Ice Blasts might be enough to do it. It's not going to do amazing work against our Frost Imp friend. Well, that's fine. Mostly just need to kill that wizard, and there they go. Perfect. Playing a little bit safer than maybe we needed to. Could have possibly gone away with just going balls to the wall and finishing the fight, but not going to complain too much. Now I definitely feel like I want to go to this second place. Scroll of Summoning and Defile Floods is a really nice combination. Have to be a little bit cautious of these net traps, and we should also switch from protection to fire to positive energy. Help out against the Soul Eater here. And let's pop around this corner so that those nets are not a factor. And we should be able to just tap through the rest of this encounter without too much concern. Absolutely lovely. And here we go, starting with the inventory management once more. I guess Ring of Magical Power, probably fallen off by this stage. It helped us out quite a bit in the early game, but now we're looking for something a little bit more substantial for our defensive capabilities. That should work out. Poison Darts will be the next thing that we toss. Actually, you know, I'm gonna take back our decision here, just for the time being, and see how that leaves us. Now, what are you? A Black Mamba. Shouldn't be too bad, 16 damage. I am concerned about a Death Scarab. They're always tougher than it may seem on first blush, especially when we're stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Let's go with some acid. What are our chances? 73% is not too bad. There we go. At least the shining one is going to be real happy with us after this little trip here. And do I want to just read this right away? Yeah, I could put it onto our cloak. That's likely to stick around for a while at the very least. And what else do we have here? Are you shapeshifters, friends? I feel like you're shapeshifters. Ah, yes. It does say shapeshifter right there. Do I need Scrolls of Torment? I like to have them. Those are one of those items where I find myself constantly saying, like, oh, there could be a use case scenario. The majority of games, they just sit in my inventory and do absolutely nothing. But every once in a while, you come across that really tough unique that gets hit harder than you do from a torment, and that's where it comes in handy for sure. So we'll have to see. It's on the list as a potential option if we find something really good, but we'd at least have to think about it a bit. That's you in Berserk Rage. You don't think you've ever quaffed one? I feel the same way. I used to feel that way also about lignification, but more and more as the game has kind of progressed through development cycles, I found Lig to be actually more useful rather than less for that, especially early game, getting that really nice AC. Even late game, if you have no positive energy on your side and you just need to survive a couple of torments, it is absolutely fantastic and a lifesaver. But alright, let's head in here. You being Berserk is actually quite bad. Very bad. You hit a lot, my friend. Should have maybe waited to see if this buddy was also a shapeshifter, and we could have avoided this problem, but here we are. Oh geez. Okay, definitely cannot be in a corner like this. Have to, at the very least, back up here. Cane Toad is better than the, whatchamacallit, the Manticore, so that's actually not too shabby. We can maybe just blast both of these buddies in one fell swoop here. One thing we could have tried is potentially polymorphing some of these buddies as well, but here we are. Just a friendly reminder, can't co-op heal wounds and curing for sure. Always a good idea to make sure that we're taking that into account. But I'm going to quaff some might because we need to get through this fight in one piece, if possible. Trying to think of what else we could do here to potentially alleviate some of the issues. I think turning into a tree is no longer quite that good. 27 AC stays about the same. So I think we will just have to keep going with the acid and hope that we take these two out before they have too much of an opportunity to rain the pain down. At the very least, it has nice damage as we chunk our way through. Beautiful. Dang it, I like the polar bear. Ice Beast also fantastic. There we go. Ooh. +0 gloves with positive energy and, more importantly, regen. If we can stack regen to absurd amounts here, we'll just be absolutely swimming. So let's immediately put those on. Seeing invisible doesn't hurt either. I mean, not a big concern while we're still with TSO here, but that is hopefully subject to change in the future. We'll have to see. Maybe this other pair of gloves will be even better, but we'll just have to head in and see how she goes here. Do those vaults seem properly balanced to all of you? Because we had a heck of a harder time in the second to last, but it is what it is, I guess, and we'll just take what we can get. Ring of Magical Power. I will take these gloves because we are lacking poison resistance, and that will be very helpful for going through Spider if we don't find any other source. Now, we just have to beat, as Safid puts it so lovingly here, his royal boviness. Yes. We must think about this a little bit at the very least. We don't have invisibility identified at the moment, so that's not quite an option. And those javelins are going to hurt quite a bit here. So what else can we do? I mean, one thing to check real quick. Attack delay is at 0.5. If we switch over to our other shield here, how are we looking? 0.6, that's not too bad, and I think I would like the extra defensiveness there. Might have to chug another might potion. Could even potentially just try and outpace with a berserk, but we'll have to see how things look here. Well, let's start with an auto explorer. And what are you wearing? +1 plate armor of amelioration. Cool. Interesting. Harm, resist poison, and 2 pips of fire resistant. Harm is going to be brutal to deal with here. We're going to be taking a lot of damage. I don't think I've ever seen a Minotaur with that effect in play before. I mean, of course, on the flip side, they're also going to take a lot of damage, so take that as you may. What do we wish to do here? One thing I might do... Actually, wait. Oh, you have resistance to poison. No! I was hoping that we'd be able to use some Curare to at least slow them down, give us a fighting chance, but that's also not exactly an option, unfortunately. So at the end of the day here, I think we just have to get good and just kill them before they can kill us. I'm willing to burn some more acid for sure. Is that just a regular old greatsword? Then I'd much prefer you use that over your javelins. And okay, so that was a little bit of a to-do about nothing, but I'm still happy. +5 hand crossbow with penetration. Jeez Louise, that is actually pretty nice in its own right. We're gonna be a bow boy, but we may have to change gears here and instead go for crossbows. It would allow us to keep our shield That's pretty awesome. That's a hand ballista, exactly. That's just absolutely decimating the ranks of our enemies. At the very least, +1 short bow, not too much to write home about. I think I will drop that for now. We can always get something else in the dungeon. In fact, if we look up bow, we have just +0s right now, but still, I think a worthy trade, at least for the time being. And let's see what other treasures await us. Boots of Rampaging aren't a huge find. Another resist fire ring I'm not too worried about. Do I want the armor at all? I don't think it's worth the harm. Other things? Fantastic, don't get me wrong. But that harm is where things get a little bit sketchy, especially on a character with slightly lower HP totals. I'm trying to think of where I might be willing to use harm, because as a general rule of thumb, I just stay away from it myself. Anything that makes me take more damage, I'm not too interested in. I'd rather prolong a fight than just try that, but exactly what I was thinking, safe hit. As an ogre in general, especially as an ogre dragon, you have so much health that it doesn't matter too much if you're taking another, percentile hit. And you output so much damage that if you're just one-shotting everything, where's the harm? Pun definitely intended. But for now here, let's read the ID scroll, get potions of haste. That is fantastic. That'll definitely help us out in the long run here. And what else? I have the Staff of Cold, which we picked up automatically, but I actually might keep around because we have no source of cold resistance quite yet. That's also what this Staff of Poison was doing here, is a quick swap option in case things got a little bit dire in that regard. So with that, I think we're good to go. I'm looking at the Boots of Rampaging, but I think I like our Boots of Flying just a wee bit more at the moment. Silver Boomerangs, I also would like to get my paws on here. Oh, Buckler can go. There we go. Much easier decision than I was originally worrying about. Now, just give me a Fedhouse Altar, please and thank you. Definitely ignore all those things for the time being. Boulder Beetle's actually a potential risk to us because they just hit real hard. Perfect time for us to have just completely gotten rid of our poison darts, but we can use Curare. We could even throw a net as well to make our life a bit easier. Pick this buddy up once more, and rinse and repeat. In fact, this time around, let's just play it a little bit safer. We'll throw from afar. We did lose our only Curare dart, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. And we do get our first rapier here. So we compare stats to what we have going right now, +4, 8, and 0.5 min delay to +4, 6. So that extra little bit of base damage helps out a pretty huge amount as the game goes on. So at least remember that this is here. If we're not able to find a quick blade, if we're really struggling at any point in the game, we can always come back and just enchant that son of a gun up. And let's definitely check, see what you require. +3 gold dragon scales. It's definitely a possibility. It would require most likely a few enchantment scrolls kind of thrown at the issue, but we'll have to see if that's worth it down the line, see how many of those we can come across in our journey. Especially if we just end up continuing to use a, what am I thinking about? An artifact piece of armor. There we go. Brain went a little bit blank on me. But if we keep using artifact armors and we never need to use those enchant armor scrolls, then there's no real harm. And that's just free treasure. We can hopefully get something nice. Another electric branded short blade there in the dagger, but we'll leave it for the moment here. Again, TSO is quite happy with us, with everything we're coming across here. I mean, one measly Fedhouse Altar is all I ask you for, game. We must fulfill our destiny. It was the one thing we wanted out of this life. Let's see, what was at the end of that? Ooh. It's an annoying encounter. Like, I don't think I'm willing to face off against this many demonologists specifically. Summoning across the deep water seems like an absolute nightmare. But it's interesting. It's interesting. TSO allows Vine Stalker bites? It seems so, Great Poison. Yep, I do believe. Also, I don't know why auto moderator here tagged bites as an appropriate word. I mean, technically, most words can be used inappropriately, but the general context seems fairly safe to me. But yeah, fortunately, it is actually really cool, because I never, you know, we kept comparing the Vine Stalker bites to a kind of pseudo-vampiric brand, and TSO doesn't allow that normally, so it does let us get away with something just a wee bit, which is pretty sweet. Spelled TSO wrong. I don't know, does the terms of service allow Vine Stalker bites? That's a whole nother caboodle, a whole nother question. So we no longer have a net, we no longer have Curari. If the start of this fight goes well, then we have a shot, and we'll continue to push through. Fantastic, but that definitely had the potential to get real nasty. And this Manticore wasn't even enraged? I mean, do they want to make the game too easy for us? Well, I should check. Okay, these are both just standard enchanted longswords. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean it's an easy fight. Oh, I probably should have swapped over to our speed-branded weapon, seeing as how the electric brand isn't doing much for us. There we go. A wee bit sketchy, but that's fine. Vine Stalker's on front page. Anything is possible. I do believe so. That's the dream, right? I guess we might as well pick up an amulet of mana regeneration. Seems like it might be useful for us just to keep our pseudo health topped off here. What do I want to drop? In fact, let's go into this menu to kind of organize in our mind. We're not using the hand crossbow yet, so we could actually just throw this for now. Same with the arrows. Those are for future me. For the time being, we'll leave those alone. And let us... Oops. Always have to think through that. It's like, wear, wield? No, of course, it's put on jewelry. P for put on. There we go. We got there eventually. And, ooh. You are going to be a little bit of a tough encounter. We will run away the second you start doing your damage reflection. One thing we could potentially do here, could have done and could still do, is start training a bit of invocations. Even if we do plan on switching to Fed House in the future, it still helps us out there a bit, I believe. It's been a little bit since we had our last Fed House run, but I'm pretty sure. So let's actually train some of this, and that way we can at least use some of our piety here to potentially survive the next while we're waiting for that altar.